Welcome to Epoch Islander Assembly. This is number 8. For those of you that are not familiar, you can go watch these recordings on YouTube. Sometimes we get a little delayed with uploading them, but all of the previous 7 are now on there. They could be a little long to watch, but there's some really good nuggets and alpha in there. And so, yeah, let's dive into number 8 today. So I wanted to start with just the uniting question that we should all care about the most. Why a network state? So it's fun to think about tokenomics. It's hard not to look at charts sometimes. It's cool to think about branding and like these civil wars that we have right now going on Twitter. But like, let's really get to the grassroots just for a second. Why a network state? Well, in general, at a high level, crypto is under attack. Not just what we've seen over the last several years with misinformation, the SEC coming after projects, shutting down random companies here and there. But even I think this was just yesterday or 2 days ago now, I don't know. But just yesterday, the SEC coming after Uniswap. And it's crazy that this open, permissionless, decentralized system, which is what we should be striving for, transparency, is what's coming under attack. So I'm excited to support Uniswap in the fight against the SEC, but it's just a constant reminder that if you are a builder, especially in the United States, we are under attack. And that's why I think under the hood of why I'm personally excited about network states, this is kind of the catalyst. So there's two potential solutions here that there's probably many more, but two primary solutions that we can have moving forward. We can either fight the regime, and this is what Coinbase is doing. They're taking it to the man. I think Uniswap is about to also take it back, and they're about to fight. They're about to plant a flag in the United States and going to take it against the powers that be. So this is a good and justified battle that's about to take place, and I'm very happy to support Brian and everybody at Coinbase and Uniswap. That said, in addition to fighting against it, we can also build the alternative. So the analogy here that I think is really great is we could either fight to change the US dollar monetary policy, try to reduce inflation, or we can create alternative currencies, whether you're Bitcoin or you like the mimetic view of Doge or Ether, whatever it is, simply giving people the opportunity to opt out, an escape hatch, if you will, is super, super important. Not to force people into a new currency, but to opt out. So, what's the analogy with network states? Well, we have these countries that we have currently been born into and forced into this from day one. And so, what if we could create alternative escape hatches for people to opt into if there are better ways to live life and govern each other? And so, the goal here is not to, again, forcibly move anybody, but just give somebody an alternative. So that's about network states. But what does it actually mean? What does this actually look like in practice? Well, if you take the GDP of Silicon Valley itself, a small network in the physical world of startups and entrepreneurs and investors, they alone have created an $800 billion plus GDP of what they've been able to create. If you actually take the value of all the companies and the logos you see here, it's many trillions of dollars. And so, if we're going to create a network state, um, they've already created somewhat of a blueprint on how this is done in the physical world. And so, they recruited talent. There's Stanford there. There was the early people behind the transistors. I'm Silicon. I'm forgetting the name right now, but you guys probably know it. Um, so then they created technology, and this created this nice uh, bucket of just good things to happen and kind of innovation to happen in this part of the world. And because of that, users just started growing so quickly by the internet, and they brought people online. So what crypto is doing is actually following the same kind of um, track, if you will, where we're getting so much adoption. So, in the same way that Silicon Valley created this network that brought people online by bringing together investors and innovators, we believe that we can start on chain and bring together the on chain revolution. So many of you may have seen this graphic before, but if Silicon Valley is building a physical world that's equity-based and VC-owned and Web2 focused, we are building a digital token-based, community-owned and Web3 focused ecosystem. So if we were to just fast forward real quick, let's pretend that Epoch Island is successful. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's going to be easy. I still transparently believe it's going to the odds are not in our favor, not because I don't have faith in our team, but just because this is a very hard thing that we're trying to do. But let's just say we are able to work out through all of the obstacles that we're about to um, face over the next many years. What does it actually look like? Well, these are just completely made up numbers, but it shows you this idea that we have a real population of people online and on chain and potentially in the physical world. We have a GDP that's growing. This is actually the GDP of Singapore to show you kind of the scale that can happen if we're able to get off the ground. We could start acquiring parts of land all over the world. So instead of just one part of the world with land, you can start to acquire acres across the world so that you are a more decentralized country. I put a picture here, by the way, of Disney in the background just for a fun fact. This is roughly how much land Disney World has over in Florida. So if you want to like a footprint of that. And then so in all, you can start to see this network start to grow if we are actually big enough. And now that you have people and you have capital and you have resources, you can then have the leverage to identify as a country, and not just that, but other countries will recognize you as such as well. So big picture, going to be very, very, very hard to do, but something to keep us North Star focused on. So let's get into the nitty gritty here of the actual Twitter thread that was created that outlined the agenda. So we've already done established some of our initial governance, the initial currency of Epoch, the elders. We started nominating those. We have established some form of funding that can at least jumpstart a small little fire that hopefully grows. But now we are looking to get into this next stage, which is build true revenue so we can be self-sustaining and start to maybe do the actual land acquisition or recruit more people and talent. So let's get into the Twitter thread here. And we're going to start, as we said before, with the quick introduction of the altcoinist team. So just for a quick preliminary, just introduction for you guys. For those of you who haven't seen it, this Twitter thread, I guess not a thread these days. What is this? An X post? Is that what you call it? By altcoinist was very in depth. I've already mentioned this, but Altcoinist actually never reached out to us, their team, to make this. So to be able to create something this in depth without actually like sitting with us on like a Telegram group or anything is super impressive. They took the initiative to write this entire post, and luckily for Epoch Islanders, it really struck a chord with many, many people. And so whenever I saw this, and many of you probably read this as well, I was inspired to reach out to them. And I really just wanted to hear their story of how altcoin came to be, what they're up to. So we were able to have a nice 30-minute call that turned into probably an hour-long call yesterday. But now that we have them live on the call today, I wanted to give a quick welcome to altcoinist. So just to kind of get off the ground, would you guys like to give a quick background of who you guys and what you guys are about?
Sure. I mean, thank you so much for the kind words. It's truly heartwarming. I think this is just a testament to like the value first approach, which I know that Konstantin and both Oliver preach really hard. Like we just want to give value to the entire industry as much as possible, and being able to form connections through that. So a little bit about us, and also thank you so much for the invite today, Zachary.
Definitely.
A little bit about us. I mean, I think the inception of the entire team goes all the way back to 2012 with Mate, who you see on the left there. He started mining Bitcoin on self-built ASIC mining rigs. And he actually worked together with his father to form Bitcoinist.com, which he exited from back in 2016. And then he worked together with Roger Ver to form Bitcoin.com and worked within Bitcoin.com for several years. He met my friend Konstantin here around 2020. And they started talking about, just as COVID hit and the rise of content creators really took off, and on digital entertainment really, and that trend really was initiated on how you could potentially build something that's on chain for creators. Time goes by, fast forward a year, Altcoinist is formed. And we essentially started the account, I think around what, end of 2022 or
Bear
something?
market bottom.
Middle of the bear market bottom.
No, at the bottom.
So the first couple of posts that Konstantin wrote, I think there were like 3 impressions on or something like that. But yeah, I mean, fast forward a couple months, Mate reached out to our other co-founder, Silur, who's our lead developer, and we started working on the thing that we are just about to kind of show to the world. So we've been ghost building, and funnily enough, we're positioned as, in a weird way, because we're positioned as this like up and coming degen-esque type of KOL on X right now. But we're really excited to kind of unveil what we're building to our community. Essentially what it is it's Web3 infrastructure for transforming communities to economies. So imagine this, you're a creator right now, you're posting and building your online audience through the likes of YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and the forms of monetization are quite limited. And there's this big trend where private communities have started to form. You can also, if you guys are into the online business world, Alex Hormozi just invested one of his biggest investments into School as well. So he's also very bullish. And I mean, most of the things he's bullish on, usually you got to pay attention to. So this trend of communities is getting bigger and bigger. And as we discussed yesterday, Zachary, this evolution of anything that has been the status quo is just going to continue with the upcoming years. So essentially what the creator can do here, they can build their own community, which is going to be on-chain. They can token gate it, so generate recurring revenue for themselves. And the novel mechanism which we've introduced is every single creator here has their own staking pool, which is really insane in a way, because the community gets to stake into the pool and share a portion of the revenue generated through the creator's brand. And because the creator now has a staking pool, they actually get a TVL as well. And just by having a TVL, a myriad of network effects unlock, because essentially what you can gauge through this is the economic strength of a creator and their brand and their community. So this is both great for projects and brands looking to sponsor with creators. And it opens up a very interesting element, which we've already also seen the trend where funding for startups is shifting from VCs over to communities. So this is also something really interesting, which we're very excited about seeing how this could potentially unlock the community VC element in a very interesting way. So yeah, that's kind of short, but not that short introduction of what we are and how we came to be and where we're going.
I love it so much. I wish we would have recorded our conversation yesterday, to be honest, because there was, again, so many other nuggets that we talked on that I wish we could share here. But so many things we could do. By the way, if you guys do have questions, please leave those in the chat for Altcoinist on like whether they answer them here or later. I'm sure they'd be happy to do that. You hit in so many new threads that we could go down. I think it's cool that you follow Alex Hormozi, and I did see that School investment as well. I think this vertical, if you even want to call it that, of communities is just so clearly gonna hit, and it's just a matter of what is the infrastructure that's going to be able to capture that and help these creators and do that. And so I already got a hint of this yesterday, but I'd love for you to compare this, because I think a lot of people's brains work on comparisons. Like we have to do that with network states. And so people have been trying to attack this problem, excuse me, in different ways. So, there was a lot of people mostly know, say, friend tech. I think even before that, there was like, I don't even know if you want to put in the same category of like BitClout and that kind of like thing where it's like a person, but those seem to be, you don't really know. Like I'd get a key for somebody on FriendTech, but I didn't really know. Okay, I get a chat, but I didn't really know beyond that what it was about. So I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't even give you any prep time for this question, but you're so on the ball with questions yesterday. Can you like help people like mental model for like how to position altcoinist relative to like all these other things they may have seen?
Yeah, so there's so many things I want to touch there on there. So I mean, generally when we're talking about the category of which we're in, you could say it's SocialFi, and the core struggles of SocialFi so far have been one, token utility, two, also scalability, and then three, which we believe is definitely incentives. So there's this famous quote, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome," from Charlie Munger. Inherently, if you're building some form of ecosystem that should align incentives between creators and their community, or is built for creators, the incentives between them should be aligned. So BitClout, as an example, if you have your own token as a creator, you're incentivized to kind of sell that to your community. And as long as the community doesn't necessarily benefit from that directly or indirectly, there's something wrong. Now, with regards to Friendtech, I think when the way they've positioned their V2 model, which through which they're gaining a lot of traction again. So I encourage anyone who's been following Friendtech and kind of stopped following them, or for whatever reason, because it kind of died off, there's definitely a rise coming again, because what they're doing and the way they're doing it, we very much like, so to speak. Now, with regards to their original model where you had keys, inherently the issue from our perspective was incentives, because you as the key holder, you were incentivized to sell to realize a gain. So not only do you decouple from the creator and being attached to the creator and their brand, but also from the network. So that also creates some forms of insustainability. Now they're really working around this right now from the new elements of what they're introducing into the V2, and there was definitely an insane element of hype and traction initially, which allowed them to do what it seems like they're planning to do basically an airdrop where they're doing 100% of their supply to their holders. Don't hold us accountable to that statement, because it might not be true, but it seems like that's what they're doing. So that's a little bit about Friendtech. And then if we were to position this and use an example, imagine if you were to have a Patreon and your community and other people could invest into you. And basically you become some form of you and your community become an investable asset. And as you grow, your community grows and a myriad of flywheels just unlock, and you use infrastructure to bootstrap your growth. That's really what we can compare it to. In addition to, what's cool here is because we're building something on chain, not only can you use this as a platform to launch your community, you can actually, there's an interoperability element where you can plug in existing communities and use this as form of a gating mechanism and unlock the incentive mechanisms through using the backend infrastructure as well. I hope that answers your question or the questions you asked.
That was awesome. I even learned some more here. So also yesterday, again, I don't know how much you want to share publicly, so I don't want to speak on these, but you did give a glimpse of like what does it looks like over the next 3 months or so. So I think my last one or two questions here, I might have one more, is can you just give people a glimpse of what to be on the lookout for over the next weeks, why they should go to Altcoinist or follow you guys on Twitter, anything like that. Just give a glimpse of what's on the horizon.
Yes. So, I mean, you kind of did an unveil here, because this was kind of in the ghost making. We haven't necessarily done an announcement around this landing page either. But in the upcoming weeks, you can be on the lookout for we don't necessarily want to call it a rebrand, but we're going to start talking more about what we've been ghost building. In addition to, if anyone is at Token 2049 next week, look for the big green, acid green A, because we're going to be there. And then we also do have a KOL physical event prepped for the 20th. In addition to that, we do have our beta coming up where there is an element of points involved, similar to Friendtech. Just going to put that out there. And then finally, we're looking to do the ALTT launch as well, going into the upcoming months.
Awesome. By the way, did I hear acid green? Is that what you said? Acid? That is
Yeah, acid
that's
green.
very pungent. I've never heard of that term before, but that's quite
It's the
interesting.
alien acid green, as we call it.
I love it. I was telling you guys the other day, I'm really jealous of your sign. I only have like a shirt behind me right now and some stickers. So I guess last question, yeah, if somebody's interested in this, of course, follow you guys on Twitter. I see you guys have a whitelist right now that people can do. Is there anything else that that you guys would like encourage, like, because I think one thing you got across yesterday is you guys are really looking to get these KOLs, like the creators, um, involved. And so like, do you, I'm curious if are you like crowdsourcing the onboarding of creators, or do you guys alone want to be the ones onboarding them? Because I do bet people could like be willing to like try to get people on. Yeah, what do you want people to do? Let me put that on you. What would you like people to do here?
So yeah, currently our KOL network is around 30 plus people, and it's based from the really heavy hitter alpha guys from this cycle. So the unfortunate reality, I'm going to phrase it that way, is that you very well know, Zach, you come from a marketing background. Right now, you're limited to how you're going to market yourself, and we talked about this on the call yesterday as well. You can have the most solid tech, most solid product, most solid everything, as long as you don't have traction, you don't have impressions, you don't have hype, nothing, no one's going to really use it. So what we're aiming to do right now is we're aiming to bring on around 100. That's our target to hit 100 KOLs with a minimum of average 15,000 followers when we go to market with our beta. And yes, we are partially outsourcing it and doing it in-house as well. But guys, I mean, if you align with what we're building and you can help out with pushing this to any form of network or any form of KOLs that you guys know who would be interested in something like this, very much appreciated.
Yeah, I think if those for those of you listening, if there are people you follow on Twitter and you're like, I get a lot of value from you, um, I want to invest in you, not just like listening to your tweets, but actually get with you. Like there is a huge incentive for everybody listening here. Find your favorite Twitter person. Maybe you have a relationship with them, and if you can come across organically and not like super shilly, I think you guys would love to refer them to Altcoinist and some KOLs there as well. So last thing I wanted to just give you guys an additional shout out. Of course, those of you on the call here, most of you have been around Epoch Island for a while. We got a nice boost of energy whenever altcoin has talked about us, and more importantly, a lot of the people that have onboarded from Altcoinist have stayed here. And I just want you to let you guys know, for someone myself who've been around in crypto for a long time, that is very, very, very rare to have a product that can drive not only traffic, but retention as well. So time will tell if we actually can retain this and make sure people are excited about the network state. But what Altcoinist is up to is very unique, and encourage you guys to give them a follow. Do you guys have any last comments or questions before we move on to our next agenda item here?
No, man. Thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah, feel free to. I won't take any offense if you guys need to jump in and jump out. I think you guys are a little later in the day. So thanks again for joining. I'm sure we got our Telegram group and we'll keep the conversations going on there. Cool. Later, guys. Awesome. Well, let's keep going here. I see we've got some more people who have joined since then. I'll do my best to kind of keep the chat going as I can. I do have it pulled up on the right here. I see Patrick says you want to sign like that too. Yeah, Patrick, we need to. Who's our manufacturer? Who's our dealer here? We need to get the signs going.
Got a guy. Call this guy.
I'd link you up, but this is domestically made, so to speak.
Oh, okay. So if I travel there, then I can fly it home with me. I got it.
It's a nice quest. Like
Yeah, you can travel here. You'll get the sign, a triple shot of espresso, and a Zin on the bikini.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys. Well, let's go to, we are at the 30-minute mark. So this is actually really good timing to go into reviewing this upside proposal, Island Upside. So, by the way, I see ZM says merch, please. Actually, right behind me, I just had this shirt made, this Epoch Island shirt, but they sent me the wrong size. So I'm testing it out. I'm being the guinea pig for you guys so that we can actually sell some good quality shirts on the website. Maybe use all the proceeds to go buy Epoch. So I think that'd be pretty cool. All right. So let's get into I think what probably most people, really care about, and this is, I'll say at least we, Moai Labs, put a lot of effort into this proposal, and we're really, really excited about the implications of it. We were going to make a formal proposal for this week, but since we did have the assembly today, we wanted to gather feedback and questions one last time, give you guys one last time to voice your opinions, agreements, disagreements, so that we can then next week we can give a more formal, full on chain proposal and hopefully have the buy-in from the Islanders. So there's three main goals of this proposal. We want to launch our flagship product called funding streams. We believe that this single-handedly can be the catalyst for our growth, not just hype, not just speculation, but true fundamental value to builders and backers in a one platform. Number two, generate revenue and buybacks for the Epoch token. And then number three, introduce the Island token. So just a quick disclaimer, because I always have to put this at the top. Island and Epoch are not competing tokens. They are very much complementary. Actually, Island helps Epoch quite a bit. So we'll go through that here in a bit. But just I know whenever you might bring up another token, people might be a little weary of what does this mean for them as an Epoch holder. As somebody who holds Epoch myself, I'm very excited about Island, and I hopefully by the end of this chat today, we will explain why. So the catalyst for this proposal is we now have accomplished, or at least started, 4 of the 7 steps to diplomatic recognition. Although we are moving into stage 5, number 5 is going to be the hardest one. I think much harder than buying land, and maybe even getting diplomatic recognition. The revenue part of this, we have to think of ourselves as kind of a startup where we have to think about product market fit, creating something that people have value, that get value. So personally speaking, I hope it goes faster. I would just think of entire 2024 as we are trying to generate revenue and create an actual valuable product in the world. And so what does that product look like? Well, we went and we talked with a bunch of the elders and islanders and interviewed them. And rather than presenting them a product, we started asking about the pain points that they have, so that we can build something for them. And there's 2 primary pain points that we were able to abstract from these meetings. With the elders and with bigger ETH holders or just crypto holders, um, we realize that a lot of them want to stay completely liquid and exposed to their favorite token, like ETH or whatever your favorite token is out there, and maybe wrapped Bitcoin. But they still want upside in kind of like projects. Like, so they have like that degen little tingle to them, but they don't want to go full on degen. So the way that a lot of people do this now, I don't want to put his name on the spot, so I'm not going to say his name, but there's a co-founder from a pretty big crypto project, and he literally puts his ETH into a lending protocol, borrows from it in USDC, and uses that to do all of his angel investing. And that allows him to stay exposed to ETH, but still get liquid for USDC investments. The problem with that is you can get, you're paying borrowing fees, you can get liquidated. So the pain point there that we thought of is, what if you could, instead of risking your ETH or having to sell your ETH, you could lock up your crypto. You're not risking it. You could unlock at any point in time, but the yield that is generated from your crypto is used to fund builders, projects, and causes that you want to support. So now your downside is literally just the opportunity cost of your yield, but your upside is you're getting in really, really early at these early stage builders. So that was the one side of it. And by the way, I will go through this thread. I'm just kind of giving context for now. And the second part are, many of you guys listening on this call, I think what we've attracted is builders. And it doesn't always have to be an entrepreneur, but just, you guys are tinkerers. You guys love thinking about strategy and tokenomics and experimenting with like new ways of doing things. And while you still can go and try to raise venture capital money, most people are not they're not ready in the position to have a product or clear confidence yet that they should be able to raise $2, $3, $4 million kind of seed round. I think Christian, you guys in Altcoinist were able to raise a seed round, and that's, maybe another time I'd love to hear your origin story on how you built something enough to get signal to then go raise. But most people, they just need enough money to maybe quit their day job so they can start building and focusing on what they want to do. And so the real goal here is if we can start taking the yield from the ETH or from the USDC and streaming that to people, um, can we get them enough capital to quit their day job and go all in on building or supporting the vision that they see that they want to exist in the world? And this is how this new tagline that we have right now, stake the change you wish to see in the world, is coming to be, where you find something you want to see exist, and instead of investing in it, you stake to support it and get them off the ground. And our basic belief is that there's tons of builders out there, that the next Hayden Adams, the next Vitalik Buterin, the next Eric Voorhees, these are builders right now that are a one-person team that have the capabilities of creating billion-dollar DeFi protocols or NFT projects if they just had that jump start finances there. So those two problems, bringing them together, is what this funding streams is all about. The funding for the builders streamed to them in real time. So we will have actual graphics here. So this thread, if you want to read it in full, does outline all of the phases in which we've already done, establishing governance. You can go actually look at this Dune page. I don't think anybody has looked at this in a while or has refreshed this in a while, but you guys can go and look at the charts and stuff. Really well done. Wasn't by us, by the way. Somebody in the community did this. We deployed the currency. You guys can go check out on CoinGecko. We started to nominate elders. So over 36 elders have been nominated. We have many dozens more that are in a private Telegram group right now that are basically earning their way into a nomination. So we could just nominate all of them, but we really want to have some, it's not just handed out. So Byron on the call here worked his butt off, took many calls with me, was always able to add value, and earned his way into a nomination. Josh, who we talked about later, Patrick here, like they have been going above and beyond joining these calls. So they're not just handed out willy-nilly, but we do have a lot of extra people we hope will step up over time. You can also go view all the elders. This was updated this past week where we started to upload all the new people that have been nominated. So you can go check those out here. So what is next? This is where we're talking about generate revenue. So let me read this real quick. I try not to read too much. You guys know I like to be off the cuff, but I will read this so that I don't mess up anything. So to build a network state, you need people, but Epoch Island isn't composed of just any people. Since the beginning, our focus has been on recruiting the top innovators and investors around the decentralized world. With founders involved from Balancer, Shapeshift, Airdrome, and many others, we're off to a great start, but we have a long way to go. In the same way Silicon Valley was able to attract Web 2 startups, Moai Labs believes Epoch Island needs a foundational product to attract on-chain builders for decades into the future. This is the funding streams product that we keep talking about. So here's like a graphic, the first Figma board that we had here. And the idea here is think of like a Product Hunt or even like a Facebook feed where you can like scroll through and look what everybody's building. But unlike Product Hunt, where you just go and upvote certain things, and that can be gamified. Somebody creates tons of accounts. This one, you would actually put a financial backing to support. So it can't really be gamified because there's some financial parts here. So step one, you would click stake. You would stake your ETH or USDC. Then that stake is then generates a yield. That yield is then used to buy Epoch tokens. We consolidate all of the yield into one token. I'm actually working on a Twitter thread to explain why this decision was made. Maybe that's for another week. But for now, all of it goes into Epoch. Then that Epoch is, we vote by where we stake on where the funding should go to which builders. And then in return for staking and doing all of this, you will receive island tokens. So these island tokens are actually collateralized by Epoch, but we'll get to more on the island stuff later. So the benefits for builders is it's fast. So you only have to make one simple on-chain proposal. It only takes a few minutes and you can get funding stream immediately off the ground. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to like go through a review process. It is permissionless funding. So we wanted to be as permissionless as Uniswap made trading. Number two, even if you don't get any funding per se, you can get a signal from early supporters that what you're building is very unique and maybe not unique. If nobody's staking to support you, maybe your idea is not as good as you thought. So if anything, maybe this will save you 3 to 9 months of building something that nobody wants. We've made that mistake many times in the past, and we don't want to make it again. So it's a huge value add to making sure that what you're building is of interest to the world. And the benefits for the people backers, if you want to call it that, is you don't have to risk your ETH or USDC, so you're kind of stable in the asset that you want, and you're fully liquid. So a lot of investors, they invest and they don't get a liquidity for 1, 2, 3 years until like a token is released or an IPO happens or a seed A or a Series A or a Series B round happens. So in this model, you don't have to wait that long. You can unstake at any point in time. And then what we talked about yesterday, actually with the altcoiners team, was like this also makes a very strong alignment between the builders and the backers. Because if the builders start to build something the backers don't want, the backers have the power to withdraw unstake. And so it aligns both of those people. I wasn't expecting to do this, but actually, this is not a complete product, and probably Ben is even going to be upset that I'm showing it, but I do want to give you guys a visual of like the actual um, DApp here. So this is a 1, 2, 3 mechanism. So stake crypto to earn island, unstake at any time. Vote on builders, projects, and causes. Here are just some dummy projects that would have here. And then yield is used to buy Epoch and distribute funds. So let's actually do like, so you would come in here, and you could choose 10 ETH, and then you could see that you will start earning some island per day. You'll get some voting power, and your yield will support builders worth a certain amount of Epoch per year. All of this text is dummy data, so don't look too far into it, but it shows you how simple this is to do. On voting on builders, again, all of this is dummy data. We even have one called a mold-free hotel. Again, these were just kind of inside jokes with the team here. But you could come, so a project like let's actually go to like the GigaChad University here. So somebody who wants to create a GigaChad University could come in here. GigaChad created this funding stream. They share this link. Then if you want to support them, you could come in and lock USDC or ETH and then vote on them. By the way, I see here's some noise. Steve, if you could. Poor Max here. Max, you got to unmute you for a second. Give me a second. I think Max is good. So you could come in here and basically stake, and the yield would go to GigaChad, and then GigaChad could offer gigapoints in return if they want to do that. That's up to them. And you could also add your project here. And then, of course, you can, if you don't want to wait around, you can just straight up buy Epoch here with ETH or USDC. We are also trying to work on a way for if you want to just go from ETH to like a liquidity token, you could do that as well. So I just want to give you guys an insight of the actual DApp that Ben is building. There's still a lot of work to be done on this, on like auditing and stuff like that, but at least you guys got a glimpse there. Let's keep going. By the way, you guys are welcome to, I will try to keep up with the chat here. But if you guys do have questions, feel free to try to jump in. I'll try to make some time. So what this does is it generates revenue for Epoch. So the funding stream product actually drives value back to Islanders and holders because 100% of the yield that's used purchases Epoch off the market. This is, of course, pending approval of this whole proposal. And then this creates a steady, aligned, and predictable reoccurring buy pressure on Epoch. So we actually have a Google sheet that we created that shows if we get this much ETH locked, and this is the APY, you can expect to receive this many $1 million of buy pressure on Epoch over time. So it's kind of like, annual reoccurring, monthly reoccurring business models, Netflix, But instead, this is kind of like a week-to-week reoccurring business model. Christian, I see you had your hand raised, so I'm going to take the time to, yeah, go ahead, Christian, if you want to jump in.
No, we were just talking about the whole concept, like
Yeah.
how much we love it, and a big struggle for up and coming creators as well when they have just like 5 to 10,000 followers is most of these people do it part time or not even like have any income through it. So you just gave us a pretty interesting idea as well to potentially add to our roadmap.
Yeah,
That
I
was
think there's
uh,
tons of
become
ways
one
to
of
go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, just to be just we talked yesterday to be one of those streams on your platform, and from the years we should bootstrap those upcoming creators as they hit a few metrics, what our platform measures or the community measures, and yeah, make this a synergy. But really kudos for this whole idea. And I also told Zach that yesterday that there is a really successful project who proved that this works, like this type of delegated funding. And also our token modelist would really love this. Like he's a mathematician. And he was talking about this delegated funding idea, and that it's really something that can take off, in my opinion.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I think we were talking a little about Morpheus, who has proven that this has worked out pretty well for them in the early stage. They had many million dollars of ETH to earn the more token. Um, but yeah, I think there's some synergy here between, we haven't figured out yet, but between altcoinist and like, I think Epoch Island aims to be like an early place to get started. And then whenever you want to like really go for like a large raise, I think altcoinist could be like a nice, like, okay, I've proven that like what I want to do, it's got some momentum. Let me go take it to the next league. So yeah, I'd love to brainstorm in future calls with that. But just to your point, ETH is only earning 3.5% APY. I say only. That's still like in the real world, that's okay. But it's not exciting. It's not going to be, changing a lot of lives or anything like that for these whales. So yeah, it will be interesting to see if they're willing to give that 3.5%. And then you get these USDC now, which is at like 10 to 15%. Like that can be quite a bit of funding. So it'll be interesting to see over time. I do see a question here from Tesmos. Tesmos, I haven't seen your name before, so this is your first time. Welcome. You said the epoch generated from this revenue are new minted tokens, or is there a max limit for number of tokens? How is it going to influence the system epoch or island prices and returns? So you asked a few different questions there that I probably have different answers as well. So to first clarify, there's no newly minted epoch happening in this process of the yield. So what's actually happening is when we stake ETH generates yield in ETH. We use the ETH to buy epoch off the open market where tokens already exist, like Balancer or Uniswap. So there's no new epoch that's being minted, which is great. You asked, is there a max limit for number of tokens? So I would love to share a post that we made about this because a lot of people see that Epoch has the ability to get minted and they get a little weary of that. But there's a lot of precautionary reasons that we made this, or precautions we put in place and why we made this decision. So there's not a technical limit on how many Epoch can be minted, but there is a limit of only 10% of the supply can be minted at any given time. So you can never see like the token supply like double overnight. Like at most it can be 10%. Um, Secondarily, if there ever is newly minted tokens, it takes 7 days of governance approval to happen. So it won't just happen overnight where you're diluted. You will see it far in advance that new Epoch tokens are minted. And the reason we did all of this is because the Epoch token from day one had no tokens in our treasury. So most projects will pre-dilute their holders by minting tokens into like a foundation or a team wallet or something like that. Arbitrum did this, Uniswap did this. Basically, everybody does this. Instead of pre-diluting people, what we wanted to do was all agree if we want to accept dilution to do that together. So the Islanders could still reject any minting of tokens at any point in time. So hopefully that helps as well with understanding that. Very good questions. Thanks for asking them. You guys please keep jumping in and I'll answer them as I can in the chat. In general, the more stakers we have, the more yield, the more buybacks for Epoch. It's pretty much as simple as that. And here's some numbers. We also have some Google Sheets. Steve, if you have those Google Sheets ready that you updated, please leave that in the chat. I'd love to show people the island token. Steve, if you can go find that. So this shows some TVL. We think we need about 10K ETH to, like, we can start with less than 10K ETH locked, but if we get to 10K ETH locked, we're going to feel really good about the snowball effect that's going to happen of basically the flywheel of this getting in motion, because we're basically creating over $1 million of annual reoccurring revenue, which is pretty cool to see. And we're going to be able to do a lot of funding with that. Also, USDC has a much higher APY, so we only need about $10 million of USD to generate $1 million of ARR. Now, ARR, I just want to reiterate, can be somewhat, we have to understand how ARR is being used here. A normal company, they have revenue, of course, but they also have expenses. So Netflix, they have all of their subscription, but then they have to pay for content and licensing, all this, salaries, whatever. So what is our expenses as Epoch Island? Well, anything that we want to fund outside of Epoch Island, that will be an expense. Nothing is really approved for that right now. But more importantly, we do have to acknowledge that some form of the epoch that is distributed could be sold. So like if we fund people with $1 million of epoch, what percentage of builders are going to sell that? Is it going to be 20%? Is it going to be 50%? Is it going to be 80%? That we don't really know. We're going to create a lot of mechanisms for people to keep their epoch, and why they should reinvest that back into Epoch Island. But let's assume 80% of builders who get epoch, they sell it. That's still a 20% margin, if you will, where we had 20% more buy pressure than we had sell pressure. In addition to that, there's trading fees that are happening in both directions, on the buying and on the selling. So our Islanders, the V Epoch holders, are earning nice revenue yield from that as well. So I just want to reiterate how we're defining ARR here and our unique model. So Steve did bring up the island calculator, which I will get back to as we get to, got too many tabs open. So let's get into the actual island token. So at its core, the funding streams is a marketplace between builders looking for funding and backers who want to support them. So marketplaces are historically very, very hard to get off the ground. If you think of Airbnb, you have to have people leasing their houses or renting their houses, and then you have to have people who want to rent. Or Uber, you need to have people who need to take rides, and you have to have people who are willing to drive people around. That chicken and the egg problem is very hard to get off the ground. So we believe that Island is this great initial catalyst to get the staking side off the ground, so that if people stake, we see buy pressure on Epoch, we see funding increase, and we see builders flock to us because they need funding. So the Island token is a KPI rewards token that offers an incentive for early users who stake capital into Epoch Island. This, in return, gives early adopters upside in ownership in the success of Epoch Island. And unlike traditional point systems, Island tokens are on-chain. They have real economic backing of Epoch. They're not your traditional points. They are liquid and have a value on-chain. This graphic, I believe, Steve, you can tell me, based off of some calculations, this is actually an incorrect graphic, right, Steve? So if you want to find the real value of Island. Steve created this. He just left it in the chat. Well, I guess Steve, I created it and you made it better. I'll say that. So you could come in here and choose any price of Epoch that you want to see, and it'll tell you how many Island tokens there will be, the Epoch each of those Island tokens will be redeemable for, and the value per Island token. And also how many Epoch will be minted essentially to facilitate this. But to reiterate, what's really interesting is if the price goes down on Epoch, let's say it goes to 7 cents, there's zero inflation, there is zero rewards. This is a backstop to where if we don't perform well, there will be no rewards for Island token holders. We are all motivated and aligned to see Epoch succeed, or Island token holders earn nothing. So just a nice little, mechanism here where Island doesn't win unless Epoch token holders win as well. I'm going to keep going here. So this was basically the graphic. So let me keep going here. How does the Island token work? You find a builder or project you want to support, you stake ETH, and then they earn Epoch and you earn Island. That's the roundabout way of saying it. And since this proposal has not been approved yet, we did want to create at least like a wait list of people who are interested in participating, just to see. I think we have over 200 people that have joined this, so that's been really cool to see. And you can also get more details on how this works. Steve, if you can remind me, we need to come in here and change the graphics to the updated numbers as well.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Cool. So we did put all of this proposal on Discord. So if anybody has any comments or questions, we will be making the on-chain proposal next week. So please get your comments and questions in before that. So we actually have 2 open questions for you guys that we would love feedback on. Or I'll just say that we're still working through, that we haven't figured out yet. So number 1, if we succeed, let's just say that Epoch reaches $2.50. I'll just make it up. You will see that there will be 12.5 million Epoch that have been earned by Island holders. How KPI tokens work through UMA's protocol is these tokens would be released at a very specific block and date. I think right now, Steve, it was playing around with like December 1st or something like that.
Yeah, roughly then. Yeah.
That's how KPI tokens are work. It's not how we structured it. It's how UMA structured it. There's pros and cons to this. It's kind of like a band-aid where it's a free-for-all essentially, to where these tokens are just claimable. The downside to this is, of course, like the earlier person to claim their Epoch token will basically have the first ability to have a nice return on them. So Epoch will still, of course, be much higher price than it is today to achieve this, but there is a potential that this token locks will have a psychological impact on many people that want to like sell before December 1st happens. What's really interesting though is this was also the theory with, you guys remember when ETH 2.0, the token unlocks that were happening and like the industry was freaking out, and then it happened and like the price went up? Do you guys remember that? Like, I think a lot of people pre-sold expecting it to happen. And then what actually ended up happening, a lot of people had like dry powder sitting on the sideline to buy it up, and ended up like becoming a bullish event in a weird way. So I'm not going to say that that's going to happen here, but there is a weird thing where it's not always a negative thing as well. But regardless, we have had later Nanner, thanks for joining. We have had people we wanted to bring up with you guys creating like a vesting thing here. So for example, instead of it all being unlocked on December 1st, it gets vested to the Island holders over like a course of a month. Now, this does add some additional development time and security stuff to be considered, which is disappointing because we're already like kind of spread thin. But we wanted to bring it up to you guys. A very quick kind of like I wish I could create a poll here, but like how much do you care about these Epoch tokens being vested that are earned by Islanders? Would anybody like to give any insight to what there is no wrong answers here, but if you guys have any perspective on this question.
We're trying to raise our hand here, but it's not working.
Okay.
Can we chime in?
Yeah, go for it.
I think it would make a lot of sense as well, and we'd love to help out with this if we can connect you guys to Austin, who is basically a tokenomics and a game theory designer. So he's a mathematician, physicist background, and he helped build our token utility structures and he also advised for Zero Land, Ready Games, Entangle Protocol, etc. So he, if anyone, he is going to be your guy to ask that question.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to get connected with Austin. Is he in the Telegram group, or we should add him in there?
No, we can
Okay.
plug him in.
Cool. That'd be awesome. Well, yeah, if nobody has, I mainly wanted to plant the seed with everybody here. We are thinking about this. Like a lot of times you guys see proposals and you're like, some initial people will be like, wait, this is going to go wrong. There's pros and cons to everything that we do here. Steve, what were the other variables like, how long do you guys want the island token to be earnable? So if we do it for a month, there might be some more FOMO to really lock early because it's only for a month. The problem with that is after a month, are we going to have to like do it all again? Are we going to like, what's going to happen after a month? The longer you do it, the less people are excited to get the island token because it's longer duration. So there's kind of this like Goldilocks zone that we're looking for the duration of island tokens to be earned. Steve, were there any other variables that we looking for some feedback on? I don't know.
The vesting duration, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month.
Oh, like how long they're vested. Yeah. So to give context to what Steve is saying is like we could vest it. I think a lot of people might mainly be concerned if there is no vesting, that somebody basically creates a bot that claims the vest and sells it like immediately. So even if it's only like a day, there could be some benefits to a 1 day vesting thing. We even brought up this really cool idea to Umar, our CTO, which was like the earlier you claim, the less Epoch rewards you have. So imagine if like as time goes on, you can claim more and more Epoch, so you're paid to be patient. So there will be a nice little linear line of people jumping out, being like, okay, I want my Epoch tokens now. I want my Epoch. So if you only wait 25% of the time, maybe you burn 75% of your Epoch. Or if you wait for half the time, you burn half of your Epoch tokens. It's this nice thing where maybe somebody is willing to burn Epoch if they can get their Epoch early. That's another like fun mechanism we were thinking about. Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, so we did have, when we were brainstorming around our points as well, initially what sort of curve we should implement for the distribution. And there was this, and it kind of aligns with what you said as well. So there was a logarithmic curve that was brought up. So it's exponential. And it also rewards if you wait heavily. In addition, you can play around with that, whether if you want to claim it early, it can also burn the rest or not. That's kind of up to the protocol to decide. And that also kind of introduces other interesting element of the deflationary mechanisms too. Yeah. And it really rewards patience. But of course, it also, the FOMO is not there.
Yeah. Man, that's what I love crypto. There's so many fun ways to tokenomic ways to play with these. There's so many options. It's hard to economic model all of them out. But it's cool that you guys have thought about something similar. Houdini, go ahead.
So Zach, what about doing a sort of stepping down structure whereby by staking early, you get more island tokens for the ETH or USDC you're staking? So it doesn't have to be a 1 month campaign. It can be 6 months, but the first month you will accrue more island tokens than the second month, than the third month, and so on.
Steve, how did we forget that? So Houdini, you're right on track, Steve. What we were thinking about was, yeah, maybe like a halving function, almost like a Bitcoin halving, every month, like
Exactly. Yeah.
the island tokens kind of go down kind of thing. It's really definitely a FOMO to get in early. The only trade-off always is like if it's like 3 months in and you're like feeling like you're not getting a lot of island tokens, will we really see, and like let's say our awareness like pops off on month three or four, will people still join? Because there already is kind of an incentive to join early, because if you join in the first month, first halfway through, you will end up with twice as much island because you've been staked twice as long. But that is something we're heavily considering. Houdini, do you like that model?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. You like it because you're early. You're like, I'm already here. Of course I like
I'm
it.
packed and ready, yeah.
I love it. Cool. Christian, is this your recent hand
No,
or?
it's a new one.
Okay.
No, have you guys considered some form of similar to like a power token element, where the longer you wait, the more boost you get on what you can take out?
So that's
So
a
kind of
combination.
shifting the concept, like shifting the angle. Like if you wait, you get boosted.
I haven't thought it
If
from
you-
that angle.
You can be early, yes, and then if you hold for longer, then
Yeah, yeah. So it's like the earlier you are, the better, and the more you wait, even better.
Huh.
So it incentivizes earliness and long-term sustainability too.
I can kind of picture it. I think yeah, I think I want to write these out on Telegram after and like really analyze them. But I think I get what you're saying. There's like it's a double whammy on being early and waiting.
Yeah, so like if you think about it, if it would be a staking pool, if you're an early staker, you get a curve where you get boosted yield as time passes, and the aggressiveness of that curve can be determined by the formula you want to attach to it. Basically.
Okay. Yeah, super interesting, Steve. I think Steve would love to participate in these conversations. If there are any, is that something you guys have integrated or? Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. So we'll do a little nice little copy paste of that. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'd love to see.
wanna
Maybe we'll
poop
let
on-
you guys be the guinea pig. What are you gonna say, Steve?
I don't want to poop on anybody's idea, Houdini and Christian. I guess the flip side that gives me a little bit of concern is, does this disincentivize, de-incentivize, whatever the word is, the last, let's say, month, that because of the way the math works, have we made it where people don't want to participate that last month because they're not going to earn as much island as the people who were earlier? Is the trade-off that I would like to think through a little bit more. I want to make sure that when we're nearing the end, where there's potentially the most important time of we're looking, the Epoch token price affects the island outcome, is that going to have the least amount of yield staking because we incentivized early and not late? The early bird could actually backfire. So not saying I know the answer, but that's the other side of the coin I'm looking at.
Yeah. It's so many angles. I think it also depends on when do you expect people to become aware of your project. And so like with altcoinness, you guys have proven the ability to drive awareness up front. So it could create that nice snowball effect. But yeah. Well, I'm gonna try to keep going here because
Just to chime in there, yes, because it's important to mention that the power token effect only works if you are projected to grow. Or not only, but it's beneficial if you're projected to grow, because the distribution of the staking pool should also be related to a specific formula where essentially, like, even if you have boosted yield for early stakers, if you're continuously growing, then it makes sense. So yes, it builds on the other economy, which is directly related to this specific action, if that makes sense. And that's it.
Yeah.
We had from us.
No, that's all right. Please keep jumping in. This adds a lot of color to the conversation. By the way, I just shared a link in Zoom. It's kind of off topic, but kind of on topic, where somebody created this really cool value accrual chart of all the ways that tokens generate value and revenue in different ways, and super in-depth article. And you know, if you guys are nerdy into this stuff, it was one of the most like helpful things. So to see kind of where your token is presented. It sounds like you guys have observed this before. Okay. So we had two new elder nominations. I keep saying I really do believe that these will pick up in a not too distant future, but for now we were able to get Josh. Is Josh here still? Josh is a busy guy, so probably not. So Josh is not here. But Josh, I've gotten to know over the years now. He is an OG for sure. Part of East Denver facilitating that every single year. Josh is what helps facilitate a lot of that with Opolis. He's worked at Mantle a bit, and now he's starting his own thing. That is kind of in the carbon credits area. But really, really good guy, and encourage you guys to get to know him on Discord. And then Ben Lakoff is investor at Bankless VC. Got to meet with him and chat about investing, and where he's going to really come in handy is like, I do investing, but I don't have an investor's mindset like VCs do. I'm in a completely different mindset. And so it seemed like Ben was completely on board with the problem that we're trying to solve, but he was coming at maybe the solution from a different mindset. And so it was really helpful to get kind of challenged some of our assumptions on there as well. So encourage you guys to say hello to Ben when you see him in Discord as well. So we did officially get on base. Technically the token was already bridged, but now there's actually 2 million available tokens on Uniswap pairs for USDC and ETH. Separately, we are also on Arbitrum now, but we wanted to focus this announcement on base, and then we're going to make a separate Arbitrum post at a later date. But you can find all of the links here on this Twitter. I'll put that in the chat here. And we were debating because this was approved for a 2 million Epoch budget, but what wasn't specifically chosen in the proposal was if it was going to go into ETH or USDC. And there's pros and cons in putting liquidity on ETH or USDC. With ETH, if ETH succeeds, the Epoch token will rise and or sync with the ETH token. So that's one thing. There might be less impermanent loss because it goes up and down with ETH. But if we choose USDC, there's more potential trading fees because there's going to be continuous, like when ETH rises, there will be kind of an arbitrage opportunity between mainnet and base. And so this could create really nice trading fees for Islanders. So there's pros and cons to each of them. But so then Steve was all like, why don't we do both of them and not have to choose this? We're like, oh yeah. So we basically split $1 million and $1 million into each of these pools, and we're going to let kind of the market decide on which ones they want to support more over time. By the way, those pools were created in a Uniswap V3 position where it started at basically the price of Epoch and up. So no Epoch were sold to make this happen, just to reiterate that. They only come into circulating supply if the price goes up. Also, it was really cool to see Jesse, the founder of Base, give a shout out here. He's all over the place on social media. Briefly got the chance to meet with him a few weeks ago, and is just all in on helping builders. So it's cool to see that. So I already showed this a little earlier, but yeah, the UI UX. If anybody has any feedback, we're really inspired to make it to where a user can get exactly where they need to go as quickly as possible. And so if you get sent this link, you can see how easy it is to like lock ETH. You can unstake at any point in time. We realize these are the 3 most important things we want people to do. So let's make them front and center. Separately, you will still be able to do all the fun things you are used to seeing with Epoch, swapping it, liquidity, minting via Epoch, and then like your analytics and stuff like that. So, marketing. So in terms of marketing, we are about to launch the funding streams within the next quarter here. And so next week is going to be my full focus on thinking about this more. But for now, we kind of have like a three-prong approach to our go-to-market strategy for funding streams. Number one, elders are going to be incentivized to send traffic to our new product, because when you come to the product, you will be able to delegate your votes to an elder. Why would you do that? Well, if you don't want to deal with like voting on many projects and the elder, you would prefer the elder to do that, you still keep your principal. Okay, you're not losing any of your principal and you're still earning island, so that doesn't change. But the elders will now have additional reason and incentive to get you to delegate to them, because that'll increase their yield power essentially. So elders will be incentivized. So we're going to make sure they all know about it and can be part of that. They will also receive like a nice little revenue share potentially through that. Launch partners. So there's many people, builders, who are looking for funding that are early stage. And so we want to get 5 to 10 launch partners that will drive traffic to the DApp because they're looking for funding. And so when we launch, I think of it like we're going to spotlight 5 to 10 builders. So now all of them on launch day or on launch week will be sending traffic. And then last but not least, so we have the builders, we have the elders involved. How do we get the average community member or islander involved? And this is what we're thinking about with, like, we're calling it island bounties, but everybody listening on the call, what can you do to help drive a successful launch? Is it creating content? Is it creating a nice little educational video? Is it creating Telegram stickers? Is it creating a graphic that shows things? Whatever it is, we want to outline like what are the things that islanders can do to promote the project and the launch, and create essentially these bounty programs where you guys can compete over doing that. Byron, thanks for joining, bud. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to connect with you later on Telegram, catch up as well. Okay, so we are only two more sections here. Appreciate you guys, as always, on Friday, staying for so long. Would anybody like to pitch something you're building, and or this is a open floor to talk about a project that you have recently found that you think is interesting? I'd love to live find them on Twitter. Let's all talk about them together. To be honest, this is the section that I want to make a big part of our weekly Fridays, where builders come here to talk about what you're building, get feedback. So Maine, I really like your question there, or your comment there, McFly. We got to get Farcaster involved in some way. How we do that, I want to start thinking more deeply about, but let's figure that out because there's lots of good people there. Would anybody like to chat about something you're working on and or a project that you think is really cool in crypto right now? If nobody steps in, I like to just think you guys are just all in on Epoch Island. Like, I don't have time for other projects. So Steve just sent over this. So Steve, I'm familiar with Index Co-op. They've been around for a while. I thought High HYETH though was like a reserve thing. Is this an Index Co-op token, HY?
Yeah, from what I understand, this is specific to Index Coop, and this has nothing to do with Reserve. They just happen to have a similar naming convention. So they've combined the yield of several things, and I'm not deep into this where I fully understand it yet, but it sounds like they're combining or alternating between whatever's the best yield at the moment. So if you're wanting high ETH yield, this is their way of trying to provide the best possible answer to that.
Okay.
So it got me excited, going, holy crap, you can get like 10 times more yield using them than our ETH or ST-ETH. That might be really beneficial for what we're building. And that's why I perked up when I saw this for the funding streams for the ETH staked.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm interested on like what is the risk here. That it looks like they're using Spindle across and they're basically management. They're managing your ETH for you. So I'm sure that comes with a slightly extra risks of the management part, but you know, this
Yeah,
pretty high yield here.
yeah.
So really, really good find here. And this is another thing, just so you guys know, that you reminded me of, uh, Steve, is that some people at 31% APY might not want to give all of their yield over to Epoch Island, right? Like at some point, APYs are so high that people don't want to stake into Epoch Island. So we are working on a way to somebody can have a slider to say, I only want to give up half of my yield or 25% of my yield to Epoch Island so that we don't lose high APY tokens as well. So just want to reiterate that. Altcoinist says, people here know about reserve at a good place. Here we are. That was kind of cryptic, but
Like as if Yoda would say. Yeah. Like I just really love Reserve Protocol and the founder, and that's really a marathon pick of altcoinist, and I really follow closely the project, and it's really good that you mentioned it, and also they follow you, so that was a great confirmation.
Yeah, we talked about this a little. You would only know about this if you were in a few of the calls, like if people who were able to join the assemblies. We met with Nevin and another team member of theirs a few weeks ago because they saw that we did the initial time offering, and they're building something similar to that. They might still be doing this with the RSR token. And so they were going to think about using our protocol, and they were also building something of their own. So I don't know where they finalized with that because our protocol is open. They could use it at any point in time. So my point is, I love Nevin's thoughts on like tokenomics and stuff, and really, really smart team. So it's cool that we have mutual respect for them for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So if anybody else doesn't have, oh yeah, we actually do have HYUSD in our, is that still,
I believe that ended.
I
But
think
that
it's
was part of our
still,
wave too. Was
no,
HYUSD
it's
is
still
something that
here. You can actually use this right now.
in
Yeah.
date April 30th. Oh, okay, I'm sorry that there's still time
Yeah.
left on that.
So you actually you can use HYUSD. Yeah. Okay, so last thing here, guys. This is for you guys fully. So I don't know if Moses is still here. Moses was wanting to talk about like the SEC stuff. Oh yeah, you are still here. But this is the time for you guys. There is no wrong question, topic, comment, frustration, angriness, like venting, whatever. This is the time for you guys to jump in. Moses, are you available to chat real quick about the SEC stuff? And it seems like you're pretty passionate about that. By the way, guys, I love these new memes that have been going around using this AI. Have you guys seen these? These are so good. You got Anthony.
I'm here.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the SEC filing? I have some thoughts I'd be happy to add to it, but I'd like to hear yours first.
Yeah, well, it's pretty
Thanks.
broad.
Sorry.
It's pretty broad. I just think that this is a good development, so to speak, in the space for both Epoch Island community members and the platform, and then just general crypto people to talk the talk and then walk the walk. I think Epoch Island platform is situated real well to show some support, and not only morally, but also potentially financially. How we go about possibly doing that, is up in the air still. But I think it's a perfect opportunity to really showcase some of the potential functionality that Epoch Island has or will have.
Yeah, Moses, I completely agree. I mean, this is what we're doing. We're fighting against these bad actors. When I say bad actor, meaning the SEC, um, raining down on people just trying to build good products. So, Moses, I'd love to run by an idea that Steve and I were talking about. So, how do we actually help here? How do we actually get in wedge into this conversation? Well, I think Uniswap has enough money themselves, like they're really, really well capitalized, that they will be able to pay for their legal stuff and support them. But not all builders can and will be able to do that. So what I've been thinking about doing is on our DApp, you know how you can basically create so you can create a build, you can say you're a builder, a project, or a cause. And we can create a cause here. You add your cause that basically says what we've been talking about is like the builder's legal defense fund. And this is if you want to support this, you could stake into this builder's defense fund, and all of the yield generated here will go to be used, as we've been talking about, as to hand over to people that we feel are being targeted from in an unjust way legally. So this is like a small thing we can do. It's nothing to us to create this legal defense fund and fund it from staking. We could also still mint some new tokens into a legal defense fund, but this is like a less invasive way to maybe do that. So Moses, what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm right there with you on, Uniswap having a lot of support already, both financially and otherwise. So yeah, whatever maybe Epoch Island would come up with monetarily, at least, it would be perhaps a drop in the bucket. But with that said, yeah, definitely with a more broad, quote unquote, legal defense fund. That's huge. I think that's an excellent sort of talking point. No doubt about it. People, the space needs it, and people need that to feel a little bit more secure. 100%. Um, Kind of going back a little bit to Uniswap, I still think though that if somehow we can tie into that, and we can brainstorm, and maybe something will pop into one of our heads just as we're walking the dog here in the next few days or weeks or whenever, some way to purposefully and distinctly tie into Uniswap, I think would benefit everyone a whole lot.
Yeah, it's gonna to crack that code, I think it's gonna come down to how can we help outside of capital, because I don't think capital is what they need. But you can have emotional support, you can have, some type of awareness builder, like crypto has like Stand with Crypto kind of, or Coinbase has that. So something like Pull Together created those like Pull Together NFTs back whenever they were fighting against the SEC. So it's gonna be really interesting. But I think that what this shows is when there are issues in crypto, how quickly Epoch Island will be able to swoop in whenever we have the product ready. If we can permissionlessly create a way to get them, it's like, how GoFundMe, something happens in the world and you immediately see a GoFundMe to like go help that. I hope that Epoch Island eventually becomes that for crypto. Like I had somebody I saw a person I follow on Twitter, his name is Block Enthusiast. He lost 16 ETH by like this scam. And I was like, I can't give you 16 ETH, but it would be really cool if I could stake some ETH to like replenish your lost ETH that you had from the scam. I think there's like all these cool initiatives that once the product is live, we'll be able to jump all over it and be more positioned like when Uniswap happens to help them. So Moses, thanks for uh jumping in. Um Epoch Social Sanctuary. ZM, would you like to explain what that is? So social sanctuary, like a emotional support team, maybe. Would anybody else like to add something to the agenda today? Steve, is there anything that may have forgotten?
Oh, there's one thing we didn't go over that is really damn exciting to me about the funding stream is the point system that some project builders could potentially eventually on their own choose to convert to tokens. Like there's a way you can degen ape into some things and potentially come out really ahead on your yield. Like I can imagine a 100x or a 1000x in some situations.
Yeah, so what Steve is alluding to here is like, let's take Hayden Adams. So Hayden Adams is the creator of Uniswap. In the early days, imagine if Hayden Adams like, hey guys, I want to create this AMM. I don't have it fully figured out yet, but if you guys stake into my funding stream, all of you guys will get Hayden points. And if I ever do one day down the line create a company or tokens, you guys will get first rights, first access to that. It's a promise between Hayden and you guys for staking him. As you can see here, an investor can't really invest in that because there's so much risk to like Hayden's like just in this idea exploratory phase. But through Epoch Island, you're only risking your yield. So you might be willing to do it. So I think just to reiterate what you're saying here, Steve, is like Epoch Island will be able to support builders and projects at the earliest stages. Therefore, earlier you are in general, the higher upside there is in capturing value as they grow. So yeah. Awesome. So I think we're gonna wrap up the call today. Altcoinist, thank you guys. You guys stayed the whole time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Likewise.
Yep.
We'll be uploading the recording for anybody who wants to see it. But I'll see everybody on Discord. I'll talk to you guys later.